Hello and welcome to our week 6 full garden tour. I cannot believe we're already on week 6. We are on 2 hands worth of fingers. I'm so excited to show you what I have out here this morning. It is a lot. Things are really starting to show off now and I love it. There are tomato plants that are 4 feet tall. There are baby peppers. There's so many peas. I need to pick them again. I just planted some more seeds last night and everything is just exploding. This is the time of year that I absolutely live for. So let's take a look at the garden and see what we have going on. So down here in tomato land, there are lots of little baby tomatoes down throughout here. This is the Costaludo Genovese plant, and if you can see, like, it's like this tall, and then this plant next to it is like this tall. So this is my smallest plant still, and it's super healthy. Like, it looks really nice, and it has some flowers on it down here, but there's no fruit set on it yet. But honestly, it looks healthy. So I'm just gonna leave it and just keep taking care of it like I have been, giving it the same care and attention as everyone else, and just wait and see. So next to that is the ghost cherry that I have in the ground over here. And I came through last night and cut off lots of lower branches and tied everybody up because we've had quite a bit of rain and things have just exploded. So this thing is huge. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, 4 feet tall. And it does have some fruit on it down here. Little babies. There's more down here as well. So these plants are doing really well. I'm really happy with these so far. And then if I can get around my little scooter. Next to that, we have our carbon tomato. And you can see the fruit on this right here. And these are starting to get pretty big. I am pretty impressed with this plant. I mean, honestly, I haven't had to do much to it, which is awesome. I've pretty much just pruned it and that's it. It's been healthy, so that's awesome. Next to that is our Amish paste, and it's also really tall and kind of spindly still, but down here, there's a tomato. Look at that. Little tomato. So that's awesome. Super stoked about that. I don't know, like, I don't know if this plant is normally this spindly, but it just kind of is. But I have it woven through the panel here, and it is growing up more than out, which is fine because some of these, like this one, are growing out and up. And then next to that we have our 2 Aunt Ruby's German green, and neither of these have fruit set on them, but they do have flowers and they do look super healthy. They're nice and tall and bushy, and the leaves are nice and big. And then over here in the corner we have our large red cherry, and it has some little tomatoes on it down here, little babies. And there's another one back here. Next to that one we have our 2 Kellogg's breakfast, and again, these don't necessarily have any fruit on them yet, but they do have flowers and they look healthy. So I'm not super concerned about them. They'll get there. This one is trying to encroach on its neighbor's space. Push that back through. Next to that we have our Chianti Rose, and it has some tomatoes. You can see one. There's a couple on here, and there's another one down there. Next to that we have our Thorburns Terracotta, and this plant is, I mean, it is producing tomatoes like mad. There are like 10 tomatoes on this plant. Like, look at these. These are already pretty decently sized. I mean, that's like probably over ping pong ball size at this point already, so that's awesome. And then we have our triple crop, which looks really good. It is starting to catch up to everything else, like the Thorburns is here and the triple crop is down here. It does not have any fruit, but it has set some flowers down here. This one's actually a pretty big one too. So that's exciting. Now next to that, this is the Blonde Girl Cherry. And this thing is absolutely crazy pants. Look at all of these flowers that are on this plant right now. This is just crazy. I am so excited for these tomatoes. Down here, you can see all the little baby tomatoes are starting to pop up. Look at all those back there. And there's some over here too, starting to come in. I'm stoked. Next to that we have our pink ox heart. And this one does not have any fruit set, but it does have all these like really massive flowers. These things are huge. So I am assuming in the next couple days I'm gonna have some pink oxheart tomatoes emerging from their flowers. And this plant, you can kind of see, has a really long stem because last night I noticed some of the leaves had some yellowing. So I just went ahead and cut them off all the way up to pretty much like 2 feet off the ground. And next to that we have our Brandywine Black. Now this plant is doing really well. It's not doing amazingly, but it's not doing bad. It's just doing it's doing well. It has some tomatoes on it down here. There are 3 little baby tomatoes over here on this, which is awesome. They are very flat. This one has a little bit of cat facing. That's what this little hole is down here. It's not necessarily a hole. It's just a little bit of cat facing from the blossom being fused. So that should be okay, but I'll watch it. If it gets gross, I'll pull it off. And next to that, we have our monster pineapple tomato. And this is the plant that I thought I topped, and I didn't. And so it has 2 main branches now. So it's huge. I cut a lot of this plant off last night, but there are still just tons of branches. But look at all these tomatoes down here. And there's another cluster kind of back in here as well. Next to that, if you can see it, is the Cherokee Purple. And it has a little tomato on it. Look at that little baby. Again, this one is super flat, which is really cool. I really like little flat tomatoes like that. It has lots of flowers on it too, like back here. Tons of flowers coming in. And last but not least, we have our San Marzano. And it has little baby sausage tomatoes on it. Look at all those. So those are all the tomatoes on the cattle panels. But right here, this is a sweet scarlet dwarf. And with all the rain we've had the last few days, this thing has taken off. Right here, last night, I finally planted a teddy bear sunflower. That's what this is. I had started it in the greenhouse and I finally planted it last night. So if I turn around, the peppers are doing really well. I mean, look how big they are and bushy and happy. The Keystone resistant giant bells are doing well. They look happy. This little pepper down here, look at that little baby. And then over here, these are pepperoncinis. I don't think there's necessarily any peppers on them yet, but there are little flowers. This is our cayenne, and there are some peppers on it. And then we have our chocolate beauty bell, which is just like super lush and happy. And then we have all of our Craig's Grande jalapenos over here. There's 5 of those. And I don't think there's any jalapenos on these yet, but there will be soon enough. So back here, we have our squash bags. this is our zucchini bag, and there are 2 zucchini plants in here. I've been keeping the leaves trimmed pretty well to make sure that everybody has enough breathing room and the bees have enough room to get in and pollinate. There is a zucchini growing. This is a Black Beauty zucchini. There's also an Italian striped zucchini in this bag. You can see a little female flower coming in right here. And then over here, we have our yellow crookneck squash. Just a regular yellow summer squash. And there's a few little babies on here, but I don't know if any of them have necessarily been pollinated. This one may have been pollinated, and maybe this one down here, but I'm not sure yet. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Squash plants in a grow bag seems to be working out okay. The delicata over there is working out okay, seeing as it is a vine. So I don't know if I would do that in a bag again, but here we are. Look at this thing. Isn't it just beautiful? Look at our lemon balm. This is oregano. This oregano has absolutely exploded. A little rosemary up here. I planted some more cilantro in here, and I also planted some bush beans. So this is a dragon tongue bush bean, and I planted some canter beans. I think I put one right here, and then I finally cleaned the top out and I filled the top of this with the canter beans. I also noticed yesterday that I still have kale. Like, I still have, let me go around. I still have all this kale. Look at all this. I didn't even realize that this kale was still like alive and kicking, but it is. So that's awesome. And I planted some arugula over here a few weeks ago, and I was like, well, that was dumb. It's gonna get hot. But it's over here on this side where it gets mostly shade, and it's doing really well. There's some more down here too. There's some thyme right here. So this is the delicata squash, and it is a vine. So you can see this right here is the end. So I'm trying to kind of wrap it around like this. It's going well so far, but it's, you know, still a young plant. I do think that this one in here may have been pollinated because it has gotten bigger than any of the other ones, but maybe not, I don't know. So it's doing well. This is just how the leaves look. It doesn't have mildew or anything. This is just, they're a little bit variegated. Now over here, we have our purple potted pole beans. They are huge. I mean, like this one, this is the top of the trellis. This is the top of that bean. So they are just absolutely kicking butt right now. They have not put out any flowers yet, but they will soon enough. These plants are beautiful. And then next to those we have our rattlesnake pole beans, which are also doing things. All the way up there. They're just climbing away. Now these are climbing a little bit slower than the purple potted, but they are just as healthy. They have these big leaves, and they are actually already starting to send out their little flower pods. So that is exciting. And now over here we have our melons. So this is the Minnesota midget cantaloupe, and this one is getting really big, and this one that I thought was not going to do super well is growing. This is a weed, so we're just going to ignore that. But yeah, look at that little baby. And then next to that, look at this. This is the Crimson Sweet watermelon, and this thing is huge. I've already had to tuck it into the panel because it's so big. And then the other little buddy next to it has 3 or 4 true leaves on it. Now, right here, look, I finally got mulch. Also, I finally mulched all this. Right here in this spot, last night I planted some cilantro and some dill. I did like kind of half and half. I just sprinkled some seeds and then loosely covered them. So I have cilantro over here and dill over here, because my thought is once these cucumbers start to climb, they will shade this cilantro, so maybe it will last longer. I don't know, but we'll see. So speaking of cucumbers, look at these. This is the green dragon burpless, and he's starting to finally like grow. I was a little worried about him for a bit, but I think he's gonna be okay. He's very close to sending out his little vine to go up. And then we have the muncher cucumber, which is also growing very well and happy. And then we have our peas. I have golden sweet peas and mammoth melting snow peas here. So I picked a lot of these last weekend, and they are loaded down again with these fat pea pods. And I'm actually going to pick the rest of these, and I'm going to take everything I have in the house and shell them. That's how we're going to do it. And when these are done, the Kentucky Wonder pole beans will go in on this whole panel. So last but not least, on our kind of backwards garden tour, the strawberry patch, you can see it's sending out all of its runners. I need to tuck those back in. These zinnias look really good. This one I ran over with the hose, so I had to tuck it in there, but this one looks beautiful, and that bloom's about to open. The bush beans are doing amazing. So these are the Royal Burgundy bush beans. And actually right here, you can see this. This is a tiny little bean. I have beans. So these Royal Burgundy bush beans are definitely so far a regrow. They are so much farther ahead than these top crops. These were planted at the same time and came up at the same time. So these just move super fast. So the top crops have a few little bug holes in them, I noticed. I need to come out here and spray again. But they look really happy and healthy. They have not set flowers necessarily yet, but they will. And then over here in this area, I planted some more jade bush beans last night and also some more dragon tongue bush beans. That's what's right here. I gave the jades another shot, but I don't know. We'll see. So this is mostly dragon tongue bush beans, and there are a few jade bush beans in here as well. And look at the lavender back there. Absolutely gorgeous. So here's our black seaman tomato. And look at that, little tomatoes. Well, this one's not as little. This one's pretty big. But I was so worried about this plant, and he proved me wrong. We have some more dill right here. It's starting to bloom and open up. And then this is the other ghost cherry plant that I have in a grow bag. And it's almost as tall, or it is as tall as the one in the ground. And it looks pretty happy. There is some fruit on it, kind of back in here. And then this sweet scarlet dwarf is even bigger than the other one in that other pot, which is awesome. So there it was, the week 6 full garden tour. Every day I come out here and I'm just blown away by how big everything has gotten. Especially the last couple days, we've had some really nice rainstorms and things have just absolutely exploded. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.